Okay, so have you ever had that feeling where you're putting in the work, like you're watching Netflix and understanding most of it, but
Yeah,
that next level of English just feels so far away?
totally.
It's like you're pushing against a wall you can't even see.
Oh, yeah,
Well, if that sounds familiar, then you're in the right place.
absolutely.
Today, we're going deep on something that might just be the key to breaking through.
Reading.
Reading. Exactly.
That's amazing.
We're going to explore why experts across the board say that just getting lost in a good book or even a really interesting article
Yeah.
can be the most powerful way to boost your English skills across the board.
For sure.
Yeah.
And for this deep dive, we've pulled together some really fascinating stuff.
Right.
Everything from like individual success stories to really solid research findings,
Yeah,
all pointing to this surprising power that reading has for language learners.
exactly. So our mission today is pretty simple:
Okay.
to understand why reading is so effective,
Yeah.
how it kind of works like a hidden engine for your vocabulary,
Right.
your grammar, even those trickier speaking and listening skills,
Mm-hmm.
and most importantly, how you can actually make reading a regular part of your learning without it feeling like another chore on your to-do list.
Exactly.
Think of this as your shortcut to actually making some serious headway in your English journey. Okay, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Why is reading arguably even more important today than it might have been for like previous generations?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that's really fascinating when we look at the bigger picture
Yeah,
is how much global education has changed.
it really has.
Back around 2006,
Okay.
only about 1 in every 100 people around the world had the opportunity to go to university.
Wow.
Now,
Yeah.
fast forward to today, that number has jumped to like 7 out of every 100.
Huge.
So that huge increase means that language skills, like having strong language skills,
Yeah.
aren't just for the elite anymore.
Right.
They're becoming essential for a way bigger chunk of the global population.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And it's not even just about people who go on to higher education, is it? Like, when you think about the job market,
Yeah.
it feels like across almost every industry, the bar for reading and writing has been raised.
Oh, absolutely.
Even jobs that maybe didn't used to be very text heavy.
Right.
Like if you work in an office, you're a mechanic, you're an engineer.
All right.
Now those jobs all involve so much more written communication than they used to.
It's crazy how much we rely on text now. Even just think about how much text floods our lives every day.
Yeah.
It's constant emails,
Yeah.
reports, instructions,
Mm.
and even scrolling through social media.
Oh, yeah.
That's all text. But I think what's really interesting
Yeah.
is that it goes beyond just understanding like what the words literally mean.
No.
When you engage with text actively,
Yeah.
it sharpens your critical thinking.
Oh, for sure.
You learn how to process information more quickly,
Right.
how to analyze arguments,
Right.
and how to formulate better responses.
Okay, so when we're talking about reading, boosting your English,
Yeah.
this isn't just some kind of abstract theory.
No.
It has a really tangible impact
Real world impact.
on like almost every area of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
From your job prospects to how you connect with other people. Okay, so we're kind of establishing why this matters.
Right.
But let's get down to how it works.
The mechanics.
Yeah, exactly. How exactly does reading do its magic on our English skills?
I like to think of it like a superpower
Yeah.
that you unlock,
Okay.
and you get better and better at it the more you do it.
Right, so let's start with maybe the most obvious benefit: vocabulary.
Okay, that's a great place to start. I think one of the first things you'll probably notice when you start reading regularly is that your vocabulary starts to grow.
Yeah.
Every time you dive into a book or, an article that catches your eye, even a short story,
Mm-hmm.
you're almost guaranteed to come across words that are new to you.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. By seeing those words used in a context,
Sure.
in a sentence, in a paragraph, your brain can often figure out their meaning without you having to stop and look in the dictionary.
Oh, yeah.
It's like your mind's solving a little puzzle.
Exactly. It's like your brain becomes this linguistic detective,
I love that.
piecing together the clues to get to what that unfamiliar word means.
Exactly.
And it's not just about understanding the word in that one instance either.
Right.
The more you read, the more times you're going to bump into that same word
Yeah.
in different contexts.
Yeah.
And the more deeply it gets embedded in your long-term memory.
Right.
So bigger vocabulary, that seems like a clear win.
Absolutely a huge win.
But what about grammar,
Grammar.
which a lot of learners find challenging?
Right.
How does that factor into it all?
Okay, this is where I think it gets really interesting
Okay.
and maybe a little bit surprising.
Okay.
While a lot of learners kind of understandably focus ton of energy on memorizing grammar rules,
Mm-hmm.
like, the tenses, the structures. Reading offers this much more natural and intuitive way to absorb grammar.
Oh, interesting.
So by seeing those grammatical structures being used in real sentences and paragraphs consistently,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of start to internalize those patterns almost subconsciously.
So it's less about actively studying the rule.
Less about the hard study.
Yeah,
Uh,
and more about just seeing it in action repeatedly.
Exactly. It's like your brain starts to recognize what sounds right,
Right.
even if you can't explicitly name the rule.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
It's almost like a natural, unconscious way of picking up these patterns.
Okay.
And over time,
Yeah.
this repeated exposure helps you move away from having to consciously think through every single grammar rule
Mm-hmm.
before you speak or write.
Right.
You start to just use correct grammar more
Mm.
instinctively.
Yeah.
It becomes more natural. You
Yeah.
develop a feel for it.
You're not just learning about the language, you're
No.
experiencing it.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
you start to use it more naturally yourself.
So grammar gets a boost as a side effect of enjoying a good read.
Exactly. What's not to love?
Now, what about our own writing skills?
Well, the connection here is pretty direct.
Okay.
As you read more and more,
Yeah.
you're exposed to this huge variety of writing styles.
Right.
You see different ways of putting sentences together, different approaches to expressing ideas.
Yeah.
You start to pick up on how skilled writers craft their arguments,
Yeah.
how they, describe things vividly,
Mm-hmm.
and how they make their writing flow smoothly.
And some of that starts to rub off in your own writing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
You
does.
start to pick up those little techniques.
Those phrases,
Yeah.
the style.
And incorporate them into your own writing.
Yeah.
Which ultimately leads to, clearer, more effective communication.
Yeah.
Okay, so reading strengthens vocabulary, polishes grammar,
Yeah.
makes our writing better.
Improve your writing.
But what about those skills that feel more auditory?
Oh, yeah.
Like speaking and listening.
Speaking and listening.
How does reading impact those?
I think this might seem a little counterintuitive at first,
Okay.
but having a bigger vocabulary actually helps you understand what you hear better.
Oh, okay.
So the more words you know,
Yeah.
the more of what you hear
Mm-hmm.
in conversations, movies, podcasts like this one
Right.
will actually make sense to you.
Right.
It's like having more pieces of the puzzle.
Okay, so when it comes to speaking,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
having a larger pool of words in your mental toolbox
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier for you to express your own thoughts.
Yeah.
Like you have the words ready to go.
Absolutely.
And I'd imagine all this increased understanding and ability to express yourself
Right.
leads to a pretty important outcome for
A
learners.
really good outcome.
Yeah.
I think one of the most overlooked benefits of reading
Yeah.
is the boost in confidence that it gives you.
Oh, yeah.
When you finish a book,
Yeah.
when you get through a tough article and you understand it,
Yeah.
it's like tangible proof that you're actually using the language.
Yeah. It's a real feeling of accomplishment.
And that confidence can be contagious, can it?
It really can.
Like if you feel good about understanding written English,
Yeah.
you're probably going to be more likely to actually speak.
Right.
And you'll be less intimidated listening to native speakers.
Totally.
And writing tasks will feel less scary.
Absolutely.
It creates this
It's a
positive cycle.
virtuous cycle.
Okay, so we're pretty convinced that reading is this, secret weapon in the world of English learning.
Like a superpower.
But you made a really important distinction earlier
Yeah.
about the type of reading.
Right. Right.
It's not about like forcing yourself through a boring textbook, is it?
Not at all. The real magic happens when you're reading for pleasure.
Reading for pleasure.
Exactly.
So forget about those assigned readings from school
Yeah.
that you had absolute zero interest in.
No one wants to do that. We're talking about you picking out books, stories, articles, anything that you genuinely enjoy reading.
That you want to read. Yeah, stuff you're actually excited to read.
So it's about your own motivation driving the process.
Exactly.
You're picking up that thriller because the plot is so good.
Keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Or that article because it's about something you're really passionate about.
You want to learn more.
Not because somebody told you to.
Exactly. And when you're really into what you're reading,
Yeah,
the learning happens naturally.
it does.
It's not work anymore.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Okay, so I know what some people might be thinking right now.
Yeah.
Okay, this sounds good in theory, but will reading for fun really make a difference in my English?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
But I think the good news is
Yeah.
that we're not just talking about a hunch here.
Right.
There's some pretty strong evidence to back this up.
Yeah, let's talk about those studies.
Okay, so one study that I find really interesting Took place a while ago,
Okay.
back in 1965,
Okay.
in reform schools for boys in the U.S.
Reform schools.
Yeah. So these were teenagers who had gotten into some serious trouble.
Got it.
As part of this experiment, they were just given a bunch of books.
Okay.
Fun books to read.
Okay.
Things like James Bond novels.
Wow.
And there was no pressure.
Okay.
They didn't have to read them.
Yeah.
The books were just there if they wanted them.
So I'm picturing these teenagers who maybe weren't the biggest fans of school
Right.
suddenly getting hooked on spy thrillers.
And that's pretty much what happened.
Wow.
A lot of them chose to read,
Okay.
and some of them were even reading a book every 2 days.
That's amazing.
Right. And after 2 years,
Yeah.
the students who had access to these books
Yeah.
showed big improvements in their reading and writing.
Okay.
What's also really interesting
Yeah.
is they started to like school more.
So that is really powerful,
Yeah.
that just having access to those books
Right.
could have that kind of effect.
Yeah, it really shows you that what you read can make a huge difference.
And this wasn't just for native English speakers, right?
Exactly. There was another study done in the Fiji Islands,
Yeah.
and this one focused on ESL students.
ESL students.
So
Okay.
they split these students into 3 groups.
Okay.
One did traditional grammar exercises.
Got it.
Another group read silently.
Okay.
And the third group had their teacher read aloud to them.
So a variety of methods.
Yeah. And what they found
Yeah.
is that after a year,
Okay.
the students in the reading groups,
Yeah.
both the silent readers and the read aloud group,
Okay.
showed much better English skills overall
Then the grammar group.
than their grammar group.
Wow. Okay, and this wasn't just a fluke, was it?
No, there was another study in Singapore
Okay.
that backed this up.
So tell me about that.
Okay. So in this one,
Yeah.
they found that the students who did the silent reading
Yeah.
outperformed the students who were in the grammar-focused classes,
Really?
even on tests that were about grammar rules. So it seems like immersing yourself in reading is just a more effective way to develop those language skills
Right.
than just drilling grammar.
That's a big takeaway.
Yeah, it is.
But I can imagine some people listening might still feel a little intimidated
I get.
by the idea of picking up a book in English.
Yeah.
Maybe it reminds them of when it felt too difficult,
Like you said, hitting that wall,
having to look up every other word.
it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, so how can people start incorporating reading without feeling overwhelmed?
Well, I think the key is to start with things that are at your current level
Yeah.
and that you're interested in.
So don't jump into some huge novel
Yeah.
right away.
No, start with things that are easier, more accessible.
Okay, like graded readers, maybe?
Graded readers are great.
Short stories,
Perfect.
or like websites and apps with news and articles that are adapted for English learners.
Yeah, those are all really good starting points.
So the goal is to kind of build momentum.
Build confidence.
Yeah, start with something that you can understand pretty well
Right, yeah.
without having to look up every word.
And as your confidence grows
Yeah.
and your vocabulary expands,
Naturally.
you can slowly start increasing the difficulty.
Right.
But remember,
Yeah.
the main thing is to actually enjoy what you're reading.
Okay, now another concern that learners often have is that they need to learn very specific types of English.
Right.
Maybe business English
For work.
or academic English.
Yeah.
They might think that reading fiction is a waste of time,
Not useful.
not useful for their goals.
It's a fun distraction.
Yeah, what would you say to that?
Okay, that's a really common concern.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that people would think that way.
Yeah.
But actually, research suggests something pretty surprising.
Okay.
In one study,
Yeah.
they looked at the vocabulary in 22 novels.
Okay.
Popular novels.
Yeah.
And they found that 85% of the words in those novels
Ah,
were also on academic word lists.
that's really surprising.
It is. You wouldn't necessarily think a fantasy novel or something
Yeah.
would be packed with vocabulary that's used in like academic papers or reports.
And there's another study
Okay.
that looked at students who read 1,000,000 words of science fiction.
1,000,000 words of
Yeah. Wow. And those students learned a ton of the important technical terms
Okay.
that are needed for studying science at a university level.
So it actually seems like reading fiction,
Yeah.
even though it might feel like a distraction,
Right.
can be a really powerful way to learn.
Especially for very specific English skills.
Yeah, even for really specific goals.
It just shows you
Yeah.
that reading widely can be a really effective way to pick up a huge range of vocabulary.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
It really shifts how you think about your reading choices.
For sure.
It makes you realize that even what feels like leisure can be so good for your English.
Absolutely.
You actually have a personal experience that really illustrates this. I was skeptical myself when I first heard about reading being such a powerful language learning tool.
Yeah.
But I wanted to test it out for myself.
Why?
Back in 2017, I decided to try and learn Spanish primarily by reading.
Okay.
I set a goal of reading 1 million words.
Wow.
Which is roughly about 20 novels.
That's a pretty huge commitment.
It was a lot. So I started with some really accessible material, beginner podcasts that had transcripts. So I could follow along.
Yeah.
And then I moved on to books that I already knew really well in English.
Okay.
Things like Harry Potter and Game of Thrones.
Got it.
And then finally, I started reading books in Spanish.
Okay.
New books by Latin American authors.
So what happened after like a year of doing this?
Well, after a year,
Yeah.
I decided to really test myself.
Okay.
I wanted to see if I could actually have conversations right in Spanish.
Okay.
And honestly, I was pleasantly surprised. I'd reached an intermediate level of fluency.
That's amazing.
It felt really good.
So you could understand most of what you read.
Yeah, pretty much everything.
You could hold conversations and people understood what you were saying.
Exactly. And the thing is, most of that learning had come just from reading.
From reading?
Not from like drilling grammar or forcing myself to speak right away.
That's an amazing testament to the power of this kind of immersion.
It was a really powerful experience for me.
It sounds like it. So it seems like a big part of making this work is finding the right reading niche?
Finding your niche, yeah.
What does that involve for someone learning English?
Well, I think the real secret to making reading a regular part of your English learning is to find content that you're actually interested in.
Right. So it doesn't necessarily matter what it is.
It doesn't have to be a specific thing.
As long as you're engaged.
Exactly.
Right.
So whether that's, detective stories, romance novels, sci-fi, news articles about technology, anything. What matters is that you're into it.
Okay, so the content itself matters less than the fact that you're reading.
Yeah. I had a student
Okay.
who made incredible progress in his English.
Yeah.
Just by reading everything he could about football.
Oh, wow.
So he wasn't into like, classic literature or textbooks.
Yeah.
But he was passionate about football.
That's a great example.
So he started with these short online articles.
Okay.
Then he moved on to longer match reports. And eventually he was even reading biographies of players.
Wow.
And like in-depth analysis of the game.
Because he loved it.
Yeah, he was so into it.
That was the driving force.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because of that, he not only got better at reading.
Yeah.
He also learned so much new vocabulary.
Okay.
And learned how to talk about football in English really well.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so it's not just about picking up a book and passively reading.
Right.
How can you read actively to really maximize the benefit?
That's a really good point. It's about engaging with the text.
Yeah.
And going beyond just like scanning the words.
Right.
There are a bunch of simple things that you can do to make your reading more active.
Yeah. Like what?
Okay, so one thing is to highlight or make a note of new words that you find.
Oh.
But don't stop reading to look them up.
Oh, okay.
Try to guess the meaning from the context.
Right.
And then check a dictionary later if you need to.
So you're really using your brain to try to figure things out, which is a good skill to have. What's another technique?
Another good one
Yeah.
is to summarize what you've read after each chapter.
Okay.
Or even after each section.
Got it.
You can do this in your head.
Right.
Or you can write down a few sentences.
Okay.
This helps you remember what you've learned.
Yeah.
And it gives you practice using those new words and grammar structures.
It's like a little mental workout.
I like that.
Okay, so another one,
Yeah.
ask yourself questions.
Asking questions.
Yeah, while you're reading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why did that character do that thing?
Yeah.
What do you think will happen next?
Mm-hmm.
What's the author trying to say here?
Okay.
This keeps your brain engaged.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
don't be afraid to reread sections that you didn't get the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Often you'll find that you pick up on new things
Right.
when you go back.
So it's about you being an active participant in the reading.
Not just letting the words wash over you.
Yeah, you're not passive. By using these techniques, you're really getting the most out of your reading time.
Yeah, you're supercharging the learning.
This has been so insightful.
I've had fun.
It's clear that for anyone who wants to improve their English,
Yeah.
reading is not just some, old-fashioned advice.
Right.
It can really be an enjoyable way to learn.
Totally.
So for those listening
Yeah.
who have struggled with reading in English in the past,
Yeah.
what's your final word of encouragement?
I'd say give it another try.
Yeah.
Start small. Find something you're interested in.
Yeah.
And don't get discouraged
Right.
if you don't get every single word at first. Just keep practicing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll see improvement over time.
Yeah. The more you read, the more you learn.
Right.
And the better your English will become.
Pick up a book.
Yeah.
Open an article. Start a short story.
Okay.
Your journey really does begin by turning that page.
That is a fantastic call to action.
Let's do it.
So to wrap up,
Yeah.
think about this. The world of written English isn't just a place to find information.
Right.
It holds the key to unlocking a deeper level of fluency and confidence in your English.
What are you excited about?
Yeah, what are you passionate about? Reading about that thing as an adventure.
An adventure.
Not a chore.
Yeah, exactly.
And you might even find some communities online.
Oh, yeah.
Or resources to help you find material that you'll actually enjoy.
So much good stuff out there.
So until our next deep dive together, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep reading.
Happy reading, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're putting in the work, right?
Yeah.
You're watching Netflix. Maybe you're even understanding most of it. But like that next level of English just feels miles away.
Totally.
Like you're kind of pushing against a wall or something.
That's a common feeling. Yeah.
Well, if that sounds familiar, this is exactly where you need to be.
Yeah.
Because today we are diving deep into something that might be the key.
The missing piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
To unlocking that progress. Yeah. And that is reading.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. We're going to explore why experts across the board are saying that getting lost in a good book.
Or blog posts.
Yeah, even a well-written article.
Anything, really.
Right. Can be like the most powerful way to boost your English skills.
For sure.
And I mean,
all of them?
All of them, like across the board.
Across the board,
You're talking vocabulary,
grammar,
speaking, listening.
the whole shebang.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And we've got some really fascinating stuff for you today.
Yeah, we've pulled together a lot of interesting research.
We have.
The personal stories of people who have had success.
And
it all points to the surprising power that reading has for anyone learning a new language.
Exactly. So our mission today.
Our mission, should we choose to accept it,
exactly,
is to help you.
Yes, to help you understand why reading is so effective.
How?
The how.
Like the secret sauce.
Right. Like how it works,
how
it acts like this hidden engine for you, vocabulary.
Grammar.
Yeah. Even those tricky speaking and listening skills. And crucially.
The big one.
Yes. How you can actually make reading a regular part of your routine.
Without it feeling like a chore.
Exactly. Like how do we actually do this in a way that is fun and sustainable?
Sustainable, yeah.
Think of this deep dive as like a shortcut.
To better English?
Right. Like a cheat code almost.
Okay.
So making some real headway in your English journey.
I'm in.
Let's go. Okay, first things first.
First things first.
Why is reading even more important today?
I mean, it used to be.
Right. Than it might have been.
For our parents, even.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I think what's so interesting is that global education has changed so much.
Has it?
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Wow.
Back in 2006, only about 1 in every 100 people worldwide went to university.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That's crazy.
Now, fast forward to today, that number is 7 out of every 100.
Huge jump.
Massive jump.
Yeah. So that means that...
That means that strong language skills aren't just for, like...
The elite.
The elite, yeah.
Or whatever.
They're essential for a much larger segment of the global population.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it's not even just about going to university.
Right.
It's about the job market.
The job market.
That you and I and everyone listening might be navigating. I feel like across industry.
All industries.
Yeah, the bar for reading and writing has been raised.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like even jobs that we wouldn't think of as like text heavy.
Right. Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so an office worker, obviously.
Yeah. Lots of emails.
Tons of emails, but also like a mechanic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they have to read manuals.
Right. They have to keep up on the new... Right. Like cars are basically computers now.
Exactly. And even engineers.
Oh.
They have to read so many technical documents.
So much more written communication now than ever before.
It's crazy.
So, okay, we get it.
We live in a world of text.
We do. We live in a text-based world. But what's really interesting to me is that...
Okay, what is it?
It goes beyond just, like...
Understanding the word.
Yeah, like just basic comprehension.
Right.
It's like reading actively sharpens your critical thinking skills.
That's 100%.
Doesn't it?
It's like a mental workout.
Yeah, you learn to process information.
More efficiently.
Yeah. Analyze arguments,
Mhm.
formulate your own opinions.
Yeah, and communicate them effectively.
So it's not just about like,
Passive reading.
yeah, it's about really engaging with the material.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about reading boosting your English,
Right.
it's not some abstract concept.
No, it has real-world applications.
It has a really tangible impact
For sure.
on almost every area of your life.
Yeah, like how you connect with people.
Exactly. Your career, your relationships,
How you learn new things.
everything.
Everything.
All right, so we've established why this matters.
Okay.
But how does reading actually work its magic on your English skills?
Yeah, let's break it down.
Let's do it. The first one, I think, is the most obvious.
Vocabulary.
Vocabulary.
It's a biggie.
So tell me about that.
Okay, so one of the first things you'll probably notice when you start reading regularly is that your vocabulary just like explodes.
It does.
It's like every time you open a book
or an article.
or a blog post,
Short story.
you're bound to come across words that you've never seen before.
Right.
And here's the thing.
What's the thing?
By seeing these new words used in a sentence, in a paragraph, in context,
Yeah.
your brain can often figure out what they mean.
Naturally.
Naturally.
Without even opening the dictionary.
Exactly. It's like your mind is solving a little puzzle.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, it's like a little detective game.
Exactly. Like you become this linguistic detective.
That's you.
Piecing together clues.
From the surrounding words.
Yes.
To solve the mystery of the unknown word.
And it's not just about understanding it in that one instance.
Right.
It's like the more you read, the more times you encounter that word in different situations.
In different contexts.
And the more deeply it gets ingrained into your long-term memory.
So you're not just memorizing.
Right.
You're understanding.
You're internalizing it.
You got it.
So bigger vocabulary. That's like
Check that box.
easy win. Done. But what about
the hard stuff?
the hard stuff? Grammar.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that everyone seems to struggle with.
For sure. It can be a bit tricky.
Okay, so tell me how reading helps with grammar.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting.
Do they?
Yeah, and maybe a bit surprising.
Okay, I love surprises.
So a lot of learners, they focus so much energy on memorizing grammar rules.
Oh, yeah. The tenses.
The tenses, all that stuff.
Additional.
The subjunctive mood. Oh, my gosh.
All those things.
All those things.
Yeah, but reading actually offers a more natural way to learn grammar.
Does it?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's almost like a subconscious process.
Is it really?
Yeah, by consistently seeing grammatical structures used correctly.
Uh-huh.
In real sentences, in paragraphs.
Like in the wild.
In the wild, exactly.
You start to internalize those patterns without even realizing it.
It's like osmosis.
Osmosis. I love it.
You're just absorbing the language naturally.
So it's less about actively studying the rule.
Right.
And more about just seeing it in action.
Seeing it in its natural habitat.
Yeah, and your brain is like,
Oh, that sounds right.
yeah.
Even if you can't explain why.
It's like your brain just starts to get a feel for what sounds correct.
You develop an intuition.
An intuition.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's like learning to ride a bike.
Mhm.
You don't think about the physics.
Right.
You just do it.
You just feel it.
You're
Just
like,
know.
I love it.
So yeah, grammar gets a boost.
Just as a side effect.
Just from enjoying a good read.
Amazing. Okay, so we've got vocabulary. We've got grammar.
We're on a roll.
What about writing?
Writing.
Yeah, how does all of this reading make us better writers?
Okay, so as you read widely, you're exposed to all these different writing styles,
Mm-hmm.
right? Different sentence structures, different ways of expressing ideas,
Different voices.
different voices.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start to see how skilled writers build their arguments, how they use imagery,
Yeah.
how they create a flow in their writing.
And naturally, some of
Right.
that starts to rub off on your own writing.
Yeah, you start to subconsciously pick up on
Yeah.
those techniques,
Right.
those turns of phrase.
And you start incorporating them into your own work.
And that leads to clearer, more effective communication.
Love it. So we've covered vocabulary, grammar, writing.
Okay. But what about speaking and listening?
Oh, the auditory skills.
Yeah, those can feel a little bit
Tricky.
tricky, yeah.
Yeah, especially for people who are,
We're more visual learners.
who like to see the words.
So tell me about the connection there.
Okay, so it might seem a little counterintuitive at first.
Does it?
Yeah, but having a broader vocabulary actually helps your listening comprehension.
Really?
Yeah, think about it. The
Absolutely.
more words you know,
Uh-huh.
the more of what you hear
Yeah.
in conversations and movies and podcasts.
Like this one.
Like this one, exactly.
The more of it will actually make sense to you.
It's like having a bigger net
Yeah.
to catch all those words.
Or like more pieces of the puzzle.
Oh, I like that better.
Right.
Yeah,
And then when it comes to speaking,
right.
having a larger vocabulary gives you more tools.
More tools to express yourself.
Yes. It's like having more colors on your palette if you're a painter.
I like that.
Right.
You can create a richer, more nuanced picture.
Exactly. And I think that leads to something else too.
What's that?
Confidence.
Ah, yes, confidence.
Yeah, it's like this maybe overlooked benefit of reading.
It's huge, though.
It is. It's huge. When you finish a book in English,
Or even an article.
yeah, and you understand it,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you this sense of accomplishment.
You feel like you've achieved something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like proof that you're actually using the language.
And that you're making progress.
Successfully.
Right. Yeah, like a little victory.
And that confidence, it kind of bleeds into other areas,
It does.
doesn't it?
It's contagious.
Like if you feel more confident in your ability to understand written English,
Mm-hmm.
you're more likely to feel comfortable speaking.
Yeah.
You're less intimidated by listening to native speakers.
Yeah, and you're more motivated to keep learning.
Exactly. It's like this positive cycle.
It is.
Okay, so we're on board with reading.
We're sold.
We're sold.
Uh,
But you made a really important distinction earlier
Oh.
about the type of reading.
the types.
It's not about forcing yourself to read.
boring textbooks.
Yeah, like textbooks from school that you had no interest in.
No way.
Right. It's about reading for pleasure.
That's the key.
So tell me about that.
Reading for pleasure, it's all about choosing books or stories or articles or whatever that you genuinely enjoy.
Yeah,
Things that you would actually want to read even if you weren't trying to learn English.
that you're excited about.
Exactly. It has to be something that you're curious about.
So it's about your own intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, you're not doing it because someone told you to.
You're doing it for you.
For you, for the love of reading.
Exactly. And when you're genuinely engaged with the content,
Yeah, huh?
the learning just happens naturally.
It does, like magic.
It's like a byproduct.
Yeah, you're not even focused on learning.
You're just enjoying the story.
And the language just seeps in.
I know what some listeners might be thinking.
What's that?
Does reading for fun really make a difference?
That's a good question.
Yeah, like, will it actually improve my English in the real world?
It will. Tell me more.
Okay, so there's actually a lot of evidence that backs this up.
Okay, give me some examples.
All right, so there was this study back in 1965,
Long time ago.
a while back,
Okay.
and it took place in reform schools for boys in the U.S.
True.
These were teenagers who'd gotten into some trouble,
Uh,
and they were given access to all these free, fun books,
like what kind of books?
like James Bond novels,
Oh, wow.
popular stuff.
Okay.
And there was no pressure to read them.
They were just there.
They were just available if the boys wanted them.
I'm picturing these teenagers.
Yeah,
Maybe they weren't the biggest fans of school,
right.
but then they get their hands on these spy thrillers,
Uh-huh.
and they just can't put them down.
And that's exactly what happened.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of them started reading.
Wow.
And some of them were reading a new book every couple of days.
That's incredible.
Yeah, they got hooked.
So what were the results?
After 2 years.
The boys who had access to these books
Yeah.
showed significant improvement in their reading and writing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and they also started to enjoy school more.
That's even better.
Yeah.
So not only were their skills improving,
Uh-huh.
but their attitude towards learning was changing.
Exactly. They were more engaged.
And what about the control group?
The control group who didn't have the books,
Yeah.
they didn't really improve.
Not all.
And in some cases, their skills actually declined.
Wow, that's powerful.
It really shows you the power of access to engaging material.
Yeah, just having those books available made a huge difference.
For sure.
And this wasn't just for native English speakers, was it?
No, this applies to language learners too.
Tell me about a study that looked at ESL learners.
Okay, so there was a study in the Fiji Islands.
Okay.
They looked at students who are learning English,
Uh-huh.
and they divided them into 3 groups.
Okay.
One group focused on traditional grammar exercises.
Okay, the classic method.
Yeah, drills and worksheets.
Another group,
Spent their time reading silently.
just reading on their own.
Yeah.
And the third group,
Had their teacher read aloud to them.
interesting.
So they were listening to English being read.
Okay, so what happened after a year?
After a year, the students in both reading groups,
Both the silent reading and the read aloud groups.
yeah, both of them,
Okay.
they had much better overall English skills.
Really?
Yeah, compared to the students who just focused on grammar.
So reading, even being read to,
Uh-huh.
was more beneficial
Than just doing grammar
than
exercises.
just memorizing rules.
Exactly.
And there was another study that looked at this wasn't there.
Yeah, there was a follow-up study in Singapore,
Okay.
and they found something even more interesting.
Okay, what was that?
The students who did silent reading,
Uh-huh.
they actually outperformed the students in grammar-focused classes.
No way. Even on the grammar test.
Even on the grammar tests.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like immersing yourself in the language through reading is more effective than just drilling grammar rules.
Than just memorizing.
It's about absorbing the language naturally.
Okay, so all these studies are super encouraging.
Right. It's pretty convincing.
It is. But I know some people listening might be feeling a little intimidated.
Yeah, I get that.
Like picking up an English book
Mm-hmm.
can bring back those memories of struggling.
Of having to look up every other word.
Exactly. Like it's just too hard.
Right.
So what's your advice for someone who feels that way?
Start with materials that are at your level.
Like not War and Peace.
Not War and Peace right off the bat.
Yeah.
Maybe not even Harry Potter.
Yeah, what would be a good starting point?
So there are a lot of resources designed specifically for language learners.
Okay.
Things like graded readers.
Oh, what are those?
They use simpler vocabulary and sentence structures,
Okay.
and the stories are often really interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, and there are also tons of short stories online
Uh-huh.
that are perfect for learners.
And what about like websites and apps?
Oh yeah, there are tons of those too.
Okay.
They offer news articles and things.
Adapted for different levels.
Exactly.
So you don't have to feel overwhelmed.
No way.
Cool. And as your confidence grows.
As you learn more words,
Yeah.
you can gradually increase the difficulty.
So it's like a staircase.
It is like a
You
staircase.
start at the bottom
Oh.
and you slowly work your way up.
One step at a time,
And the key is to enjoy the process.
always.
Okay, another question I often hear
Shoot.
is about the type of English people need to learn.
Right, like for work or school.
Exactly, like maybe they need business English
Yeah.
or academic vocabulary.
For their studies.
And they think reading fiction is just a waste of time.
Like it's not serious enough.
Right.
But that's actually not true.
It's not.
No, there's research that shows that even reading fiction can be really helpful for learning those specific types of English.
Really?
Yeah, there was this study by McQuillan.
Quick.
They analyzed the vocabulary in 22 popular novels, and they found that 85% of the words in those novels,
85%.
yeah, 85%,
Wow.
were also found on academic word lists.
So you're telling me
I'm telling you.
that by reading like a fantasy novel,
Mm-hmm.
I could be learning vocabulary.
That you could use in a university essay.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I would never have guessed that.
And there's more.
There's more.
Yeah, there was another study
Okay.
by Rolls and Rogers,
Okay.
and they looked at students who read 1 million words of science fiction.
1 million.
1 million words.
Wow, okay.
And these students learned a bunch of technical terms.
Like sciencey words?
Yeah, sciencey words that are actually used in university level science courses.
That's crazy.
Mm.
So reading fiction can actually help you with really specific vocabulary,
It can.
even for specialized fields like science or business.
Exactly.
So this idea that reading fiction is just for fun,
Right.
it's not totally accurate,
Not at all. It can be a really valuable tool for expanding your vocabulary.
no matter what your goals are.
No matter what you want to learn.
Okay, this is blowing my mind a little bit.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and speaking of blowing my mind,
Yeah.
tell me about your experience learning Spanish through reading.
Oh, yeah, that was a fun experiment.
So you basically decided to learn Spanish
Primarily by reading.
by reading.
Yeah.
And how much did you set out to read?
1 million words.
1 million words of Spanish.
1 million words.
That's a lot of work.
It was about 20 novels.
That's a serious commitment.
Yeah, I was determined.
And where did you even begin?
I started with really easy stuff,
Okay.
like podcasts for beginners
Uh-huh.
with transcripts so I could follow along.
So you were hearing the words as you read them.
Exactly. Then I moved on to books I already knew in English,
Okay.
like Harry Potter.
Harry Potter in Spanish.
Harry Potter in Espanol.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was fun to revisit the story in a new language.
And then what?
And then I started reading completely new books
Okay.
by Latin American authors. Isabel Allende,
Oh, I love her.
Jorge Luis Borges.
Oh, he's a little more challenging.
A bit more complex, but so rewarding.
So after a year of this,
Yeah.
what happened?
Well, I decided to put myself to the test.
How?
I started having conversations with native Spanish speakers.
Wow, brave.
And I tried writing in Spanish.
Okay.
And I was actually pretty fluent.
No way.
Yeah, I could understand almost everything I read.
Wow.
I could hold conversation.
And people understood you.
They did.
And all that from mostly reading.
Mostly reading, yeah. Not from grammar drills or anything.
Amazing. You basically learned a language by reading novels.
It's pretty amazing.
And in just 1 year.
Yeah, it was faster than I expected.
So it sounds like the secret is finding your reading niche.
That's a big part of it.
What does that mean?
It means finding content that you're genuinely interested in.
Okay.
Whether it's detective stories,
Yeah.
romance,
Sci-fi.
sci-fi news articles.
Anything that grabs your attention.
So what you read isn't as important.
As the fact that you're enjoying it.
Exactly. If you're not engaged, you're not going to stick with it.
You can get bored.
Yeah. And you're not going to learn as effectively.
You told me about a student who made amazing progress.
Oh, yeah. He was obsessed with football.
And he just read everything about football.
Everything, articles, match reports, biographies.
And his English improved dramatically.
Oh, yeah, he was so motivated.
Because he loved the topic.
Exactly.
So it's like finding that thing that sparks your passion
Mm-hmm.
and letting that fuel your learning.
It makes the whole process more enjoyable.
More fun.
More sustainable.
And you learn faster.
Way faster.
Okay, so we've got to pick the right materials.
Uh-huh.
We've got to find something we're passionate about.
Yeah.
But is there anything else we can do to make our reading even more effective?
Yes. Active reading.
Active reading. Tell me more.
It's about engaging with the text in a more intentional way.
Okay.
Don't just passively let your eyes scan the words. Really think about what you're reading.
Okay, so give me some specific strategies.
Okay, first one, highlight new words.
Okay, so like underline them.
Yeah, underline them, circle them, whatever works for you.
Okay.
But don't stop reading to look them up right away.
Oh.
Try to guess the meaning from the context.
Like be a detective again.
Exactly. Use your brain power.
And then check the dictionary later if you're still not sure.
Only if you have to.
Okay. I like that forces you to really think about the meaning.
Yeah, and it helps you remember the word better.
What else?
Okay, so after you finish a chapter or a section,
Yeah.
summarize what you just read in your own words.
Like a little recap?
Yeah, like a mental recap.
Okay.
Or even write down a few sentences.
That's a good idea.
It helps you process the information, and it gives you practice using the new vocabulary and grammar.
So it's like a mini test
Kind of.
without the pressure.
Exactly.
And what's another strategy?
Ask yourself questions as you read.
Like what kind of questions?
Why did the character do that?
Yeah.
What's going to happen next?
What's the author trying to say?
Those kinds of questions.
Okay, so I'm not just reading the words.
Right.
I'm actually thinking about them.
You're engaging with the material.
I'm trying to understand the deeper meaning.
Exactly.
And if I don't understand something,
reread it.
don't be afraid to reread.
It's okay to go back.
Yeah. Sometimes you pick up on things you missed the first time.
You always do.
So it's all about being an active participant,
Yes.
not just a passive reader.
You're in control of your learning.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive.
I know, right?
It's clear that reading,
Is a superpower.
yeah, it really is a superpower for English learners.
For sure.
So for anyone listening who might have struggled with reading in the past,
Yeah.
what's your final word of encouragement?
My final word of encouragement.
Yeah.
I'd say give it another shot.
Yeah.
Start small.
Find something you love.
Something that excites you.
Yeah. And don't get discouraged.
It takes time.
It does.
Be patient.
Be patient, be consistent, and you will see results.
You will.
That's a fantastic call to action.
Thank you.
So the journey to fluency, it all begins with
Turning a page.
turning a page.
I love it.
Think about this for a moment.
Okay.
The world of written English,
Mhm.
it's not just a source of information.
It's a key.
It's a key to unlocking fluency
And confidence.
and fits.
Yeah, it's like a treasure chest waiting to be opened.
So what excites you?
Yeah, what are you passionate about?
What do you want to learn more about?
Find books and articles about that.
Yeah, and view reading not as a chore,
But as an adventure.
an adventure. And maybe you'll even discover some online communities
Oh,
where
yeah.
you can be.